You're watching the Lancaster County Democrats Watchful Citizens Show. Our guest today is Jami Givens. She is a doctoral candidate for school psychology from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. And we're talking about bullying and harassment issues in the school environment. So we've talked about this study. Now, has any recommendations come out of the study?
Well, when we talk to parents and teachers, we talk a lot about, well, what can you do to help, or what are things that adults should be doing. And one thing that we find is most helpful is if keep the lines of communication with your child or children open, so that you can talk to them about what's going on at school, what's going on with their peer group, with other people's peer groups, what sorts of behaviors are people taking part in, and that your child also feels comfortable coming to you and talking to you about what may or may not take place at school. And so by keeping those lines of communication open, not only with your child but also with the school, you can sort of work to problem solve what may be happening if there's a bullying behavior taking place at school, that your child's either being victimized or bullying somebody else. And then we also talk a lot with schools about what can you do to promote a positive school climate so that it doesn't promote bullying behaviors, so that all students realize that that's unacceptable behavior at our school. And a lot of schools in LPS have done that, have put up signs that say no bullying zone, or we don't like it when people bully here, and then also talk to the classrooms about, well, what can you do if you see it take place? And so as a bystander, those students can really be empowered to say, we don't do that at our school. And so then that takes the power away from that bully because the group doesn't support it.
And I think that's an important point, is that it seems like the group almost empowers the bully and starts to endorse the behavior, maybe not actively endorse, but maybe by not actively intervening, it becomes a power issue. So do you think that kids that suffer from bullying, are they more likely to end up dropping out or anything like that?
There's a lot of different things that chronic victims of bullying have as far as effects that they see long-term and short-term. So short-term, they may not want to go to school, they may complain of somatic symptoms, they may avoid certain places in the school, they may have higher rates of anxiety, depression, loneliness. And then long-term, research has found that chronic victims of bullying are more likely to attempt suicide and to have really high rates of depression and anxiety.
Okay, so this ends up being a mental health issue. Does it impair learning? Definitely.
That's also another short and long-term effect is, if they're not going to school, they're not getting the learning done. And also if bullying is taking place in the classroom, they don't feel like they can, learn the best, or their educational needs can't be met when there's negativity going on in the classroom and they feel victimized.
It seems to me, as I talk to people who grew up with these kinds of issues and then, they're adults, that it can last, the effects of bullying can last a lifetime, really undermining people's self-esteem, their ability to perhaps pursue certain careers. So some of the information and research and studies you've done, that confirms that?
We haven't looked long-term as far as surveying adults, but we've definitely read a lot in the research about what's the effect of chronic victimization. And you're right that lower self-esteem happens, pretty much immediately, but then long-term, if that lower self-esteem is more and more reinforced and they feel more and more victimized, then yeah, there's going to be more negative effects that take place later on in adulthood, that lasting forever, and feeling like you can't do what you want to do because you don't feel good about yourself.
Now, have you found in your studies that special needs, special education children, are they more likely to experience bullying or not?
I think it kind of depends. We found that if you have like a visible disability, so if you're visibly, you can tell that the student is hearing impaired or visually impaired, those types of things, that they're more likely to be bullied because someone can tell that you have a difference. And that's one of the main reasons that students engage in bullying behavior, because they think, oh, this person's different. They're not like me. They're not like my friends, so I can bully them. I feel more powerful than them. But we found if you don't necessarily have a visual disability, like something that somebody can see, like a learning disability, you know, if students don't know about it, then they don't perceive them as different.
So it's really a perception-based thing. So then when we go back to different kinds of minorities, we talk about perceptions, and I'm going to go back to the lesbian and gay and bisexual and transgender children. If most of the bullying is based on perceptions, then are children perceiving that kids are different in that way?
Definitely. So you mean if they perceive differences just within the children? Yeah, that's when we do surveys of schools and we give this information back to the schools too, that, you know, what are some reasons that people say they're being victimized? They might say it's, you know, because of the color of my skin, because I'm too skinny, because they think I'm a wimp, because I look different, or I have, you know, different clothes than them. So it is based on perception, and I think too it's different in different kinds of communities, because what might happen in Lincoln, Nebraska might not happen in rural Kansas or rural Nebraska. And so what are those things that that the students have learned as far as what is it to be in the in-group versus in the out-group?
Okay.